It's Johnny Jones, and I'm here at home. And today we have this General Lee radio, which I'm sure people have been waiting on for a while now, the people that know I have it. I had to convert this to a CB radio from 10 meters. Now, originally when you buy this radio, it comes in this box, of course, it is made for ham bands. And you have this little band selector down here to change the frequencies. But most people don't use these radios for ham usage. They use them for 11 meters, the CB band. Now, the manufacturer knows this, so they make it incredibly easy to modify them. In fact, I will show you all it takes to modify this. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I do eventually want this channel to prosper, and I do want to have sponsors, so I really don't want to be showing people how to go against the FCC, but that is all that you need to make this. Removing this, not adding this. Removing this is all you need to make this an 11-meter radio. And they know that, and that's why they made it that easy. So, this radio has a really great A&L circuit. I wish the noise blanker was down here so that I could have noise blanker and then noise blanker A&L. Because occasionally the noise blanker in some radios is way too dull. It cuts off a lot of the high points and actually makes it harder to hear people. So I prefer having the noise blanker separate because I do use the noise blanker. There's a pulse noise that if you've seen my videos recently, I have a pulse noise here that comes from a tower, I suspect, that noise blanker completely cuts out. And I appreciate noise blanker. I like why they made it. I mean, it might not help you guys that much, wherever you live, but it helps me a ton. Now, the RF power in high is 12 watts. That's the stock power. This does have a heat sink on the back, so I'm guessing you could go higher with it. In fact, I think a lot of people do go higher with it. I did not because I am selling this to a customer who requested certain modifications. The low power is 1.5 watts. It was originally 4, but I turned it down to 1.5 because the customer wants to drive an amp. And not to get too far down a side road here, but if you're going to drive an amp, you want to use lower power. Because imagine this. When you're running a barefoot radio, you're driving a Prius. Okay? You're inside of a Prius. You're driving it. That's your radio. Your 4-watt Prius. Let's say you want a semi-truck or a monster truck, right? So what you do is you get out of your Prius and you walk to the monster truck. You don't put the Prius in the monster truck. You, the driver, the person with the voice, goes to the truck. So that's why, in an analogy, I hope helps, you don't want to run high power through an amp. The amp is your vehicle. It is your power. So you don't have to run high power through it. In fact, if you run too high power through it, it'll blow your amp up. And if you're already distorted, I didn't mess with the modulation because I don't have an oscilloscope to see if I'm boxcarring, distorting. So I did not mess with the modulation. This is stock modulation because I can't guarantee it's not distorting if I modify it. If it were my radio, I would, because I can, have locals help me with that. But I can't. I'm not going to do it with the customer's radio. So it's stock. If he wants to change it, he can. But I'm not going to run any distortion through an amp and possibly hurt his amp, possibly make people mad. So I try to think about the customer. Let's go through the features because that's what you're here for, right? So let's turn it on, and I will show you how bright this thing gets. This is ungodly bright. I mean, wow. Now it's not as bright as the video shows because there's a lot of lens glare, but it's still pretty bright. It has a talkback function. I'll actually show you the noise blanker function first. That's off. That's on. So a really good noise blinker, A&L circuit. The noise blinker, of course, being excluded because we're not dealing with any pulsation right now. But the A&L is great. It doesn't cut off too much of the high points, so I'm happy with that. Talkback function on and off. You know, there's no changing the volume of the talkback. Just a simple on and off switch. RF power, of course, high power is 12. I'm sure you can modify that quite substantially. People do. The low power right now is 1.5 watts, as I said before, for driving an amp. Mic gain, RF gain, the standard stuff, squelch, volume. This is a band selector, and you'll only ever use the D band unless you're free banding. And I would honestly suggest that you run a big-ass amp rather than free band. Now, I'm not saying run a big-ass amp. I'm just saying that the FCC seems to hate free banders more than people who drive amps. I'll tell you a story about that in a minute when we're done. So, it has a PA, FM, AM switch, which is illegal to use FM in the US on CB bands, but no one really does, so I guess it's not a big deal anyway. It has an echo board. Echo is something I don't care much about, but you guys might like. The echo itself, if you have it set wrong, can make you sound really muddy because it. So as I was saying, the echo can make you sound really muddy. Now, if you have the decay rate too long, and you have the spacing between your voice and the echo too far apart, you can sound really bad. So make sure you have talkback on when you're testing your echo out, so you can tell what you sound like on the air. Because oftentimes, I suppose, to a lot of people, it's aesthetically pleasing to have an echo on, which is fine. That's not something I'm interested in, but everyone on this channel has different opinions, and that's what I like about you guys. But occasionally, you'll hear a guy who sounds like this.
Break. Can I get a radio check on 19? Radio check.
Now that's not the worst, because the spacing is deep enough away from each other that it doesn't seem like two people are talking. It's an echo, but you can set that echo to a point where every time you're trying to talk, it is disturbing the other word in your voice or the next syllable in your voice. So make sure you have that set up correctly. So I didn't mess with the modulation either, because if you don't have an oscilloscope and you mess with the modulation to the point that it's distorted, then you are going to have even worse trouble with the amp, because you're going to be, amplifying distortion, which people don't like. Now, a story on this, if you don't mind. People will not tell you when you sound bad. Some people will. Some people are very blunt. My friend Tater will tell you when you sound like shit, and I respect that. But some people will not, and that's not their fault. They're just trying to be nice people. In fact, I won't bring up any names, but the other day I was listening to the radio, and there was a man who come on the radio, and he said, "Can I get a radio check what I sound like?" And he's talking to this guy whom he is obviously an acquaintance with. He knows to some degree. He's saying, "How do I sound?" And the guy's saying, "Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know. You might be better off getting a radio check from someone else, that knows about that stuff." And he said, "Well, what do I sound like?" "Yeah, I just can't tell you. I can't tell you. I don't know about that stuff." And it goes on and on like this for 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, of one saying, "Sorry, I can't give you a radio check. I don't know what I'm talking about," which he's actually lying about. The guy is an incredibly intelligent person. And the other guy doesn't get the hint that his radio is bad, or that his amp's bad, or doesn't get the hint that the guy doesn't just want to talk, doesn't want to give him a radio check. But they go back and forth for 10 minutes, and the guy sounded bad. I mean, he sounded horrible. It sounded like he was warbling all over the place. His voice peaks were, actually were actually modulated lower than the mids. I don't know what he had going on, or if he was driving it something too hard, but it sounded horrible, and the guy didn't want to tell him. So remember, that just because someone says, yeah, 10-4, buddy, you sound good, that doesn't always mean that they're telling you the truth. So make sure you're not splattering all over the place. Make sure you do sound good. Use talkback. Listen to yourself on someone else's radio. Listen to, have someone record how you sound and send it to you. Something like that. Anyways, so I wanted to talk about an amplifier for a second, because right here you can go off different frequencies, right? This is, of course, made for ham frequencies. But when you're in the CB band, you leave it in D. If you free band, if you go off of CB frequencies and start talking on them, especially with an amplifier, you're going to get in trouble. Big trouble. The FCC seems to care a lot more about free banding than they do amplifiers. But just now, I know what you're thinking. Like, the FCC doesn't even care about amplifiers. What the hell? That's not true. Just so happens that most people don't bother them. But if you happen to be in an area running an amplifier, you happen to disturb someone, especially a public business or an organization, they contact the FCC themselves, and they get a hold of the proper people, and the FCC comes to your door. They can triangulate the signal. It's easy. The hams do it all the time. Incredibly fun, actually. I've seen people do that. But they triangulate your signal, come to your house, tell you to destroy your amp. Now, this guy was running, this is a real story. This guy was running 700 watts. The FCC shows up, destroys his amp. I don't know if that's, he gives the amp to them, they throw it in a storage bin somewhere or whatever. I don't know what they do. But anyways, so he had to destroy his equipment. That's the way it was stated in the article. Which is a very expensive amp. 700 watts is a very expensive amp. Now, a month or two later, he is, gets tired of talking on a barefoot radio. So what does he do? He runs 70 watts. Now, I don't know if he had a little amp, like a little, I don't know what, a little Italy or something, or if maybe he just cranked up a 10-meter radio or whatever, but it was quoted as 70 watts. They show back up and fine him $15,000. So, ladies and gentlemen, the FCC cares when they're forced to care. So don't splatter all over the bands. Keep that distortion low, because if you mess with the wrong person, if you disturb the wrong organization's frequencies, your ass is grass. And unless you have $15,000 in your pocket ready to give to the FCC, I would be wary of that. Now, I don't drive an amp. I never have. I just drive a regular car. But I know a lot of you do, and a lot of you think 70 watts is pretty damn near nothing compared to what you run. And I'm sure a lot of you guys don't have any issues. But like I said, if you start splattering, if you have a really, really rough radio with a lot of distortion, and you run it through a high-powered amp, you can get in trouble, especially if you're freebanding. So turn this down to 1.5 watts. So he could run that amp. I explained that to him. So this will be sold. As far as modifying the CB, or the 10-meter band to CB, like I said, it's very easy. Just take out some resistors. The company knows this already. They know you're gonna modify it for CB. In fact, anyone with a pair of clippers can do that. And I lost it, but I won't tell you where it is. Like I said, I just want to try to keep this channel a little bit more beginner friendly. I'm not trying to build amps on here, and if I do, I would build it for, of course, ham frequencies. And I don't want to, I don't want to cause any more trouble than it's already been caused. And I hope you guys acknowledge and appreciate that this channel is about CB radio and not necessarily the CB radio hobby. This is about loving radio itself, not so much getting involved in all the side quests of CB radio. So we review radios, we talk about the generalized form of CB radio, and that's what I love. Anyways, what else have I not talked about? Let's see if we can get a radio check. right quick.
West side of my hills, reading this mail.
Hey, Tennessee there. Hey, John Boy, you got a copy on this? NC 150, North Carolina 150. You got it? CQ, North Carolina 150, North Carolina 150, CQ. Damn. I don't think we're going to get a break. Can I get a radio check out there? Radio check 31?
Your preacher, man. I know you're right. You just have to take whatever Mother Nature gives us, that's for sure. But anyway, it sounded real good up here around the southern tip of Illinois. That's for sure.
God, we're here in Illinois.
I'm working this little four-legged trick stick.
Yeah, 10-4, yeah, the 12-year-old, yeah. But, I heard him quite a while before that. I mean, I was probably 20, 30 minutes before, Coyote come in there and said something about it.
Holy crap, I can't even get a radio check on local channels. Damn. Well, there's sideband. This radio doesn't have sideband.
John Moore, just quiet down a little bit. But anytime, you know, I stay on around Carolina, we're going to be quiet. We see you.
Hey, can anyone give me a radio check out there? 23, 23? Good.
See, that 35, he just keep on coming in. I'm going to go back up on another channel there. Wait, I'm going to get off work. I'm going to go. I got a headache, guys.
Oh, me too. This is Johnny Jones. I'm here at home. I'm hippity hippity. It's Johnny Jones. I'm here at home. I'll see you later.